Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be taking up more of your questions and comments in a segment of Ask Judy. If you enjoy these, please do hit like and subscribe. Recently, I did some segments talking about some of the Walton vehicles, in particular John's truck and the John Boy's car and various different things that we saw regularly, plus some of the cars and trucks and motorcycles that were driven by some of our guest stars. So some of you had some additional information to share about some of these vehicles, and also it raised some other questions. So thought I would share some of this, and then you can weigh in on what you think, or if this information is accurate, not accurate. I don't know. I don't know cars well enough to judge any of this information. So let's get started. This first thing is from Keith Kai, who said, Model A and AA front cowling was separated at the firewall in 1929. Now, this is in regards to John's truck. It said, and flared into the body after 1930. So John's truck is a 29 Ford-produced, no 1928 model year cars. T production ended in 1927, and they spent 15 months retooling for the A. Late 28 production was a 1929 model. So that piece of information may make sense to some of you. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Next along this line from S. Gutag said, my only comment would be on the Ford AA truck, John's truck. I don't see how it could have been a 1930. The bumpers, headlights, fenders would have been different. The 2829s had a more curvy bumpers, both front and rear, with the 3031 having a single curve to them. This next comment is from GoPlad1, who said, back in the early 70s, I used to go to the Movie World Museum. Not only did they have antique cars, they also had vintage airplanes on display. I actually have home movies of me and my friend climbing on an old truck and a World War II airplane. I believe hotel magnate Bill Harrah ended up with many of the vehicles when Movie World liquidated their collection. It was a fun and fascinating place to visit. And the Movie World Museum is what is credited in early seasons of the Waltons, where it says that the antique cars were provided by. So I'm thinking that the Waltons production company rented, leased, whatever vehicles from that collection. Then there were some comments regarding Corbeth's car. And Dennis LaPlante said, Corbeth's car looked like a 1938 Ford Standard to me. And Graham Burr said Corbeth's car is a 1938 Ford V8 Standard four-door sedan. So those seem to be pretty consistent to me. Then we had ONW76, who said, I think Corbeth's car is a 1937 Ford Model 78 Deluxe sedan, which was inspired by the Lincoln Zephyr. So that is what that person had to say. And then someone, Dave, said correct. And Ron Green, comedian, said, I own one and I can attest that it is not a Zephyr. The Zephyr was only in production from 1936 through 1941. The giveaway are the butterfly grills. The car in the scene is similar, but not quite. Yes, someone out there is going to point out that the name Zephyr was brought back by Mercury in the later part of the 20th century. I call those plastic cars. Okay. Then Mike in Louisville, Kentucky said, Judy, if you ever need anyone to answer questions about any type of older or newer vehicles, including motorcycles, you may want to consider contacting Jay Leno's Cars on the YouTube channel. So there's another reference for those of you who are car enthusiasts. This is the comment I alluded to recently in talking about John Boy's car and why it was that the paint color changed. And I had mentioned this, but then I found the comment again. And this is from J.S. Oury, who said, while filming this episode, the producers learned that the blue Ford Model A they had been using was on its last legs mechanically and would be retired from future use. The only other Model A available to them for future episodes was tan-colored, and rather than go through the hassle and cost of repainting the car, they inserted the odd plot point of John Boy wanting to paint his new blue car a dignified shade of tan. So I'm not exactly sure where this particular information came from, but if it's accurate, that explains why they changed the color of the car and that it was indeed a different car when it changed color. All right, going to switch gears here, and we're going to talk about the radio, because I've had people commenting about the radio that we used on the Waltons. Tony James said the tube radio on the show is iconic. The 1938 Zenith 12S232 shutter dial tombstone Art Deco radio. Lots of reading online about it. I've always loved it. So that's according to what he said that was. Then I checked out on AI what they said, and they said the radio most closely associated with the Waltons is a Zenith Tombstone tabletop radio from 1938. Collectors commonly call it the Waltons radio because of its prominent role on the series. The prop used on the show was manufactured by Zenith, and the original television prop is now in the collection of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. The museum describes it as a non-working prop replica of a 1930s tabletop radio dating it to about 1940. There's an interesting twist, though. The family in the Waltons is living primarily in 1933 to 1941. The radio scene in the house is a 1938 Zenith, so it fits the later seasons, but is not historically correct for the early Depression years depicted in the first season. It's one of those small anachronisms that most television viewers never notice. Here's somebody else saying that the viewers don't notice. Collectors generally identify it as one of the Zenith 232 series shutter dial or robot dial models, and then gives a series of models, the 7S232, the 9S232, and the 12S232. These versions all share essentially the same distinctive cabinet, making it difficult to tell which chassis was used on screen. The 12-tube version was Zenith's top-of-the-line model. One of the reasons the radio became so famous is that it served as the Walton family's connection to the outside world. Every evening, the family gathered around it to hear news, music, presidential addresses, making it almost another character in the series. And then it goes on to offer, if you're interested, I can also tell you why collectors pay several $1,000s for an original Waltons Zenith today and how to spot one from across the room. Fascinating, the things that we can learn. I have mixed views about AI, but there are times when, from a research standpoint, it certainly offers up a lot of information, whether it's fact or fiction. We don't totally know, but it does give us some resources that we can further explore. So there you go, exploring more, digging into the facts of things about Walton cars, namely John's truck and John Boy's car and its paint color change, and also about the iconic radio that we sat around and listened to from the homecoming through to the end of the series, and even beyond into some of the reunion movies. So I hope you enjoyed this look back at those points. I'll be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more of your questions and comments in another Ask Judy, and more special guests. Thanks for watching.